Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Two for Talking podcast. I'm Corey Tusick. He is Josh Yowie. Thank you to our sponsors, Bill Neofis of Neofis Insurance and Danny's Pizza and Hoagies. And before we start, Josh, a little programming update.
Yeah, first of all, happy birthday to Bill, by the way.
Happy birthday, Bill.
Bill's the birthday boy. I don't know how old Bill is. We don't need to get into that kind of thing.
29.
He's a young and vital and handsome man. That's all that matters. Listen, elephant in the room. Joe Bartnick is not here. That's pretty obvious if you're watching right now or if you're listening. Joe is no longer going to be on the podcast with us. It's going to be me and Corey moving forward. I don't want anybody to think that this was anything personal. Joe remains a great friend. We're certainly going to advertise his stand-up performances from here on out, wherever they may be. Sometimes when you're doing live programming and podcasts, you can't really get into the specific nature of why certain decisions have been made or certain things have happened. But rest assured, Joe didn't do anything wrong. It's nothing like that there's no issues. This isn't like the Beatles breaking up or anything. We're all still friends here, but certain decisions had to be made behind the scenes, and it's going to be me and Corey moving forward. Certainly had all kinds of fun doing this show with Joe over the years. Hopefully we can collaborate in the future. And like I said, we're going to keep you updated every week on where he may be performing. I know he has a lot of fans on here who are not going to be happy about this and who like his stand-up comedy, as we certainly do as well. So absolutely nothing personal. If you see me on the street or at a game, I'll tell you all about it. So certain things you can't talk about in this format. I hope everybody is understanding of that. But I just wanted to clear that up, Corey, before we move on any further here.
Thanks, Joe, and we'll always be promoting them. So before we get into, we're going to talk Gretzky and Lemieux. That's been a hot topic. But before we get into that, it is the time of year where kids are going back to school. If you drive around the Pittsburgh area, you will see the school buses are out. You have to slow down, make sure you always stop, even if you're going in the opposite direction. And Josh, while people file in here to the podcast, because figured people, usually are catching this coming live and they start tuning in. So I don't want them to miss the beginning of the Gretzky-Lemieux debate. You're back to school. What was your staple? Did you always have like a specific type of shoe that you got whenever you went back to school? Were you like a big Nike guy? Did you wear what were all the different shoes back then?
Nike, Reebok. Nike was what everybody was wearing. No, I just was such of a Yinzer child. I just always had black and gold in some capacity on. Mm-hmm. And the Steelers in the glory days of the 90s often lost in week one. Usually, like at Peters Township, you went back to school, it was the day after Labor Day. So that was usually right after the NFL season had started. It's later now. So the Steelers would often be 0-1. I'd be pissed off wearing my Greg Lloyd jersey to school anyway. That kind of thing. But yeah, I was never a big shoe kid. My kids like their shoes. They like really expensive shoes. I don't think there's cheap shoes, but yeah, they've got good taste in shoes, my children.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you remember Fila? Was like, I remember my mom bought me Fila one time and I thought like, oh, that's going to be cool. And then I walked into school and people were like, nice Fila. And I was like, never again. Not wearing those again.
Well, that reminds me, my mom once, we went to Cape Canaveral in Florida. And I told this story on a podcast, or I believe we called it the Morning Java. That tells you what site it was for.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago, Kabali loved that story because she made me wear like astronaut pants to school. Like she actually bought me a pair of astronaut pants. I'm like, Mom, I don't know about this. I was like in fourth grade, and like people made fun of me quite a bit. I'm like, as they were making fun of me, I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. I would make fun of me too because I'm wearing astronaut pants to school. I only ever wore them once, like blue astronaut pants, and I think she threw them away. I don't know. Kabali always wants to know. He was talking to her one time and like, you know where the astronaut pants are. Like, let's just move on from the astronaut pants, please.
Do you remember those pants? If you go to a Steelers game, you're definitely going to see somebody wearing them, but they like are kind of not leopard print, but like they're Steelers pants.
Oh yeah.
They're kind of like a mix between leopard print and camouflage.
Yeah.
I got a pair of those.
Some people wearing those. Oh, did you?
I had one once and I thought these are so cool. And I went to the local ice rink, Gold Mile in Monroeville, for the Friday night skate where all the babes were. Yeah. And
they didn't want
let's just say it did not go over well.
I bet it did. And I think those like starter brands, or some of them maybe. Yeah, there's still some the occasional middle-aged Yinzer will wear those to Steelers games.
Yes, you will definitely see them.
It's not flattering. I mean, I guess it's good team spirit type apparel, but yeah.
But yeah, so that we all have those back to school memories, and so kids enjoy school.
I
Do well
hated
this
the
year.
first day of school. I was like, I can still feel the nervous pit in my stomach. It was awful. By the
Oh.
second day, it was fine, but that first day, like, yeah, not good.
Because you don't know where, like, you need your feet on the ground. You don't know where any of your friends are. Like, who's gonna sit with me at lunch? Like, what
right?
You'd walk out of that lunch, you'd get your lunch, and you walk out and be like, oh my god, I hope somebody's here to sit with. And
is this teacher an asshole? Is this one not? Like, will my bus driver remember like to stop? Does he see me standing here? Is he going to blow past the house? Like, yeah, a lot of anxiety. That's not healthy.
No, that's why. And I always hated school. And my kids, they kind of like it, but I kind of hate when they go back, because I'm like, it's fun. I love having them around and playing, but
Sure.
Is what it is. School is back in session. So I teased it, but the Gretzky versus Lemieux debate. I think it's a Barn Hockey has been doing the Lord's work online.
That guy, I was going to say, our friend at Barn Hockey, who I might add, I'm not afraid to say, I don't usually talk about the personal life too much, but I'm having lunch with that man tomorrow.
Excellent.
I've contacted him. I said, your work, you're doing the Lord's work here. And I just want to say I'm very impressed when we started chatting, and we decided to have lunch to further talk about number 66. And for those who don't know, is at Barn Hockey on Twitter. He's been going at it with Oilers fans, Canadians, Gretzky fans in general for about 3 weeks now. Just defending the honor of number 66. And the best thing that he has done, and a couple other people have joined in, they're finding this rare footage of Lemieux goals that have never been seen before.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty, like, that's one of my favorite things. He scored 690 goals. Like, almost all those games were on TV, but some of them weren't, like back in the mid 80s. And so every now and then you'll find one like, damn, I've never seen that goal before. It's like a buried treasure. It's always exciting. And he's like up at 3 a.m, like telling off Oilers fans on Twitter. This guy is hardcore.
I love it. He speaks to what we all want to speak. Like, he's saying a lot of the things I want to say. I'm like, he said it for me. And like you said, there's some goal. Like, there was a shorthanded goal against the Capitals that I don't know if I ever saw before, where Mario came down the left-hand side. I think
the wrap around on the backhand.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing that one. Like, on
I
the highlight
do.
reels.
April 2nd, 1988. I remember that one because it was my birthday. I always enjoyed when the big guy scored on my birthday when I was a child. But yeah, and it's funny because, listen, it's what, August 25th? There's nothing to talk about in the hockey world. We do a hockey podcast. So we're feeling it too. And it was funny earlier this month, every time I would open up Twitter or X or whatever we call it these days, I would see people fighting about Lemieux and Gretzky. I'm like, why is this happening? Like, why are we? This is a very odd, random time to be having the Lemieux Gretzky debate. And I saw our friend Barn Hockey was initiating much of it, but it's actually made for a fun month of a social media. I think, I mean, for those of us of a certain age who saw Mario play and I didn't really see a lot of Gretzky in his prime, but still saw him play a lot. I know younger people probably don't care. I know there's the McDavid's the greatest ever crowd. I know. Yeah. But I get it. I mean, that's
recency bias much,
My 12-year-old keeps telling me that, so I just keep texting him like videos of, look at this goal, see if he could do that. But it's been fun to talk about, and the truth is there's no right or wrong answer. I think those of us who grew up watching Lemieux play have always bristled at the idea that, of course, Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. What are you talking about? And I'll be honest, I'm probably going to make my bosses at The Athletic mad, but I don't care. We get along. We're cool. We did a feature a few years ago on the 99 greatest hockey players of all time, I think, or whatever, 100 greatest of all time. I think it was called the NHL 99 Project. And whoever wrote the beginning of it wrote the passage on all the articles like, of course we know who number one is, but what about the rest? I would just sit there like, I didn't say a word. But I think in Pittsburgh or in Boston, some people would argue with that. And I think what it all comes down to is, what's your measure of greatness? What do you consider greatness? If you're a stat person, if you only look at numbers, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else has gone over 200 points in a season. He did it 4 times. I've heard the rumor that no NHL player has more points than Wayne Gretzky has assists. I've heard that one a time or two.
Oh my God. If I hear that again, like it's so annoying.
But it's true. Like
Yeah.
I sometimes lines get blurred here, but I'm not talking about the subject of Rip Wayne Gretzky. I don't have a problem with Wayne Gretzky personally. I certainly loved watching him play, and I certainly respect what he did. I always say he had the greatest career ever. He's the most accomplished, not only the most accomplished hockey player ever, you can argue he's the most accomplished athlete ever. The numbers are what they are. Talk about changing the game. It's not meant to be a bash Gretzky fest.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's not.
But for those who witnessed Lemieux, who saw him play in person, you know what you saw.
Yep.
And I think you had to see him in person to fully appreciate it. You can go on YouTube and watch the highlights, and I assure you his highlights are far, far more impressive than Wayne Gretzky's anybody who ever lived.
Does Wayne Gretzky have a highlight video?
No, not really. He scored more than anyone else. He sure didn't do it prettier. We know that. There was not that there wasn't artistry in his game. Of course there was. But Mario scored 690 goals. I would honestly guess that like 400 to 500 of them were like legit highlight reel goals. It's not an exaggeration that they all were. But I always say to see him play in person was to understand that you were watching a man do things that nobody else could do. And to me, that's the definition of greatness. A guy who at his best played the game at a level way up here that the Gretzky couldn't touch. Gretzky, I think I forget who it was. Somebody wrote one time, Gretzky had more great games, but Lemieux's greatest games were greater. And that's fair. That's fair. And so I hate when people just, brush it off. And what are you talking about? Wayne Gretzky's not the greatest player of all time. And I actually think it's a fascinating discussion because you can come at it from so many different angles. And Corey, I know how you feel about this topic.
I didn't wear the best shirt because I'm wearing a Le Magnifique shirt.
That's actually just how Corey dresses.
This is just my normal, like in the rotation of every 12 days it goes on. I know I feel the same way. Sorry not to cut you off, but I just to me, Damashek actually posted this. I replied to it, and he further commented. Dave Damashek, if you guys don't know him, a great Pittsburgher who's out in California doing football podcasts. Yes. But he has said it multiple times before, and it's the most accurate thing that if you plucked Mario Lemieux and put him in any era, he would be the best player.
Yes.
Like if you put him in today's NHL, he'd be the best player. Whereas if you put Wayne Gretzky in the NHL right now, he'd be one of the great players, but he wouldn't be viewed as the best player in the history of the league. And Josh, I'm sure you saw this on Twitter. One of the comments, and this isn't a slight against Gretzky, but he figured out the modern way to play the game, is what this person said. I forget who it was. He figured out the modern way to play the game before anyone else. And that's why he was great. That's why he racked up so many points. Because when you look at his highlight videos, you're like, how was everybody so bad? Like the NHL players looked terrible. He made them look terrible. And it's because they were playing in a certain style. And he came in and saw the game a different way.
No, there were little things that he did. Yeah, he was just so far ahead of his time. When you watch highlights of Gretzky, and I remember watching him play, he would skate down the right wing at the blue line. He would always curl up at the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody did that then. Like literally, it was just a point A to point B game. If you had the puck, you were crossing the blue line. You were just barging to the net. Basically, that's the way the game was played. And he figured out, how to use angles and how to slow the game down and how to attack from different vantage points. He would always go behind the net. He was the first player to weaponize going behind the net. And in classic fashion, Mario comes along 5 years later, did the exact same thing from behind the net quite often. Not as often as Gretzky, but he was very effective at it as well. Gretzky invented so much of that stuff. I always suggested that Mario thought the game and saw the game the exact same way. When he came along 5 years later, he just happened to be 6 inches taller, 50 pounds heavier muscle, and just all the physical attributes that were more impressive. But they really
probably the most beautiful set of hands we've ever seen too.
No, for sure. But in terms of, and Gretzky even said when they played at the Canada Cup in '87, he said it was unbelievable because we thought the game the same way. He said, I never played with anyone like we were literally always thinking the same thing. He knew where to go. I didn't have to tell him because he went where I would have gone. And yeah, so but no, I don't mean to bash Gretzky. What irritates me when this topic comes up is the people who just think it's outrageous that we would even be having the conversation. In the same breath, those same people will say, well, Mario was the most talented player ever, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Gretzky was better. Like, well, okay, you're acknowledging.
What are you saying?
It's like you're acknowledging the other man was more physically gifted. I never hear anyone say, well, of course he was more physically gifted than Michael Jordan or LeBron or Tiger. Like, no, talk about those guys like that. The Gretzky, well, of course people are more physically gifted. Well, I mean, that's relevant because you're talking about somebody who was really Gretzky's equal with all of Gretzky's strengths. Yeah. There wasn't one thing Gretzky did that much better or better at all than Mario. Really, like maybe playmaking, maybe vision, but I don't know.
I mean, Mario had some of the best vision you've ever seen. Just growing up watching him, it's like I remember telling I'm sure you did the same thing, but somebody told me early on. They said when you go to a Penguin game, just watch Mario the whole time. And I kind of already did that anyways, but I remember it's probably like 94 or 5 on that it was just like you go watch the game and you could see him processing everything in real time away from the puck and he'd pop up out of nowhere, to get like how does a 6'4" guy that's 225 pounds, how does he disappear from a defenseman?
And probably a great example. I always try to keep in mind there's a lot of young people watching and listening who didn't really see him play. He's been retired for so long now; it's hard to believe. But certain goals, certain goals you've all seen. And when Corey's talking about, he would just disappear. I will take you to Game 1 against Chicago with 13 seconds left on the faceoff, and he just swoops out wide. And if you're the Blackhawks, how do you just ignore the best player on the ice? But it happened all the time because he always knew where the puck was going to go. And Gretzky was the same way. Gretzky would do that kind of stuff too, where they would just like, wait a second, why is he over there? Oh, that's why, because he knew the puck was going to end up there. It was almost creepy to watch at times how locked in they could be. But yeah, when you saw Mario play, like I was so lucky to be born when I was, for somebody who loves hockey. I was born in 1980. I still remember the first time I saw him play. I was 6 years old in 1986, a 5-5 tie against the Rangers. And I remember even as a 6-year-old, like you would just watch him. You didn't watch anyone else on the ice.
No.
Like it didn't matter if he had the puck or if he didn't. You were just totally captivated. It's not because I was 6. Like that's what everyone else was doing too. I think when you watched him play, I always say that if you came from outer space and you knew nothing about sports and nothing about hockey, and if the players weren't wearing names or numbers on their backs, and if you took an alien into a hockey rink and said just watch this for a while, you would just watch him. You wouldn't watch anyone else because he was so big and just playing a game that was so much different than everyone else that you wouldn't help it. And yeah, so Gretzky, would he be great today? Of course he would. Yeah. He would have the benefits of modern day training and nutrition that he didn't have in the 70s when he was a kid. And yes, he'd be great. I've had people ask me, what would he be like today? Like probably Kucherov-ish, I would think. The way Kucherov doesn't wow you with his physical skills, really.
But he ends up on the score sheet.
Not the way not the way McDavid or McKinnon do, or the way like a young Crosby or a young Ovechkin would. But Kucherov is always a second ahead of the play. He's one of the 3 or 4 best power play players ever. That's who Gretzky would be in this era, I think. Which is to say, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, he'd be great. Would he be the no doubt best player in the league in this era? No. Would Mario? Yes, of course he would. Because, Connor McDavid's faster. Yes, Connor McDavid's probably faster than anybody who ever lived. And he might well be a top 5 player ever. He probably is already, quite honestly. I'm not here to knock him.
Yeah.
But other than being faster, what does he do better than Mario?
Nothing.
That's, is he a better goal scorer? Is he stronger? Is he bigger? Does he have a better shot? Does he have better anticipation skills? Does he have better hands? He has great hands, but
Yeah.
Mario. It's like, no, I mean, and he might be the best player since Mario. He might be in terms of pure physical talent. I would say he is. But and people just are going to look at the numbers and they tell you part of the story, but they don't tell you all of the story. And I always see the Gretzky people. I call them Gretzky people. I don't know what else to call them.
That's what they are.
Wayne worked harder. Yes, he did.
Yeah,
he did. I mean, he had to. And was Mario always the hardest working player? No.
What's the old saying Mario said? How he gets ready for camp is he just doesn't order fries with his club sandwich.
Club sandwich after August 1st.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, some people might say, well, that's a little arrogant, or that's a little maybe okay. But he also knew how much talent he had, and the game came so easily to him. Would he occasionally cherry pick when he was young? Yeah. But keep this in mind. Throughout, I would estimate 2/3 of his career, he was playing in pain. His back was always bad. And there were some games, like especially, I would say, early 90s, late 80s, when his back was really, really bad. Like when you'd go to a game, you would just watch the tunnel during warm-ups just praying that he stayed it out because he missed games all the time. He would get back spasms, flare up. And you could tell games when he didn't feel right. Like he couldn't bend down. He wasn't trying to beat
his
people.
body.
Yeah, he wasn't really trying to beat people one-on-one as much because he couldn't, because he was in pain, and he would still put up a couple of points. But and if you didn't know any better, you'd think, he's kind of dogging it today. He's looking a little lazy. No, he was in pain, and he couldn't really move that well. Like that was a huge chunk of not only his career, but in his prime years. So I think it's so easy to say he's being lazy. I would counter by saying he may have had his moments in that regard, but he also was showing an unbelievable amount of courage just to go out and play when his back. I mean, listen, he had herniated disc surgery when he was 24 years old. That's not a common thing.
No, he, I would, anybody who's had any kind of back pain ever, it's so impossible to do anything. Like nowadays, I mean, now I'm 40 that I sleep the wrong way and my back hurts. And all of a sudden I'm like walking around trying to do chores around the house. And I'm like, oh boy, it's gonna be hard to lift this, it's gonna be hard to lift this box of toys up or whatever. And I can't imagine playing an NHL game with people, especially back then, draped all over you. And, the garage league, as he, termed it, is the most accurate thing. I would just, if you watch him play, and if you watched him play in person, this, and you watch them both play. If Mario had Gretzky's health, I think he scores probably 3,000 points and probably 1,000 goals. He just was that dominant. And I'll posit this. I'm curious to get your thoughts. I floated it on Twitter, and of course, a bunch of Gretzky people jumped down my throat about it. But Josh, if Sidney Crosby and Wayne Gretzky flipped, and Wayne Gretzky came in 2005, and Sidney Crosby came in 1979, don't you think it's possible that Sid would have just been the guy that figured out the new way to play the game and scored as many points? And then there'd be people sitting there going, well, Wayne Gretzky, he's just as good as Sidney Crosby. And people would be like, no, look at Sid's points. He had 2,800 points. It's not even close. It's just the era. It's nothing. And I'm saying that to say it's nothing against Gretzky. It's kind of like your Kucherov point, where it's like, would he be top 5 player in the league for the majority of his career? Absolutely. But he wouldn't be who he was.
It's an interesting thing. And you can't take it away from Gretzky because he was the first to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Would others have figured it out? Maybe. Or maybe the game would still be completely different these days. Like, did Mario, watch Gretzky in 1980 and adapt some things to his game that Gretzky was doing? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Did Sid watch, Mario and Gretzky and Steve Yzerman and players of that ilk when he was young and incorporate some things in his game? I assume. I've never really asked him about that, actually. It's an interesting topic because I think, physically, I think Crosby's more impressive than Gretzky. Everybody's more impressive than Gretzky physically.
Yeah.
Now, that part of that is a credit to Gretzky and his genius, that he was a 5'10", 180-pound guy who was a good skater, not a great one, who put up 200 points a year. That's incredible.
Mhm.
It is, but it does make you wonder if he came along 20 years later, would he have had those same advantages? Or does he get all the credit because he's the one who figured out a lot of it? I don't know. You can
Yeah.
look at it so many different ways. Crosby,
If
certainly.
Crosby plays in 1981, how many points do you think he puts up?
I don't know about 215, but probably not that far off.
Mhm.
I would think, and you can always play that game, right?
Yep.
How many goals would Ovechkin have scored against those goalies in
Oh, Jesus
1982?
Christ.
Right?
Ovechkin has 1,000 goals if he plays in the 80s with the goalies as shin pads.
But I always listen. There's no way you can prove this, and the Gretzky crowd's going to go very black and white by the numbers because that's how they win the argument. But you have to open up your mind to some creative thought. And I always say Gretzky scored 92 goals in a year, thinking 82. Scored 215 points. Okay. If you put prime Mario Lemieux on the Edmonton Oilers in 1982, how many goals do you think he would have scored? I don't know. It would have been more than 92. That's what I think.
110.
How many points would he have scored? I don't know. I bet it would have been more than 215. I'm not saying that to knock Gretzky. I think Gretzky, while obviously one of the great athletes who ever lived, and I also think he takes a lot of shit for like political stuff. And listen,
Yeah.
If you knew the politics of most professional athletes, a lot of people out there wouldn't like them. Okay. And Gretzky, to his credit, was always a phenomenal ambassador for the game. And I still think he is. The way he handled the Ovechkin thing, I thought was very classy during the goal chase. Like he didn't do anything wrong. I think he likes the attention a little bit, but that's okay. That's, we do a podcast. We like attention too.
Yeah,
it's
clearly.
fine. But I do think when you talk about all the great players in history, you can talk about any sport. You can talk about football, baseball, hockey, basketball. I don't care. I don't know if a player ever came along who landed on the perfect team with the perfect teammates in the perfect era to thrive than Gretzky.
Yeah.
He came along when the game was so wide open, when he had Dave Semenko and Marty McSorley ready to literally murder anybody who touched him. And he had Yari Curry and Paul Coffey and Mark Messier and S.A. Tikkanen going on the list. Not that Mario didn't have great talent around him in the Cup years. He, of course, did. In the first 5 or 6 years, he absolutely did not. And the game was starting to change a little bit at that point, too. It was becoming less high scoring. It was still so violent, especially in the Penguins and the Patrick division, where he was just getting destroyed every game. It was unbelievable. Whereas Gretzky was always protected, had literally a gallery of Hall of Famers, his teammates, when he was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And it was such a wide open period. He even got to play in Edmonton, which was noted for having the best ice in the league. Yeah, he had every advantage you can. I don't say that jokingly. Like that actually made a difference. Probably he had every advantage you could possibly fathom. So yes, he did it, and he deserves credit for it. But the advantages he had compared to the disadvantages that Lemieux had in so many ways, like you can't ignore it when you're comparing them if you want to do it objectively.
No, not. And then Gretzky himself says Mario was a better player. Like, I think that.
I don't know if he said he was a better player. He said he was more. Gretzky's always very careful how he works.
I guess he's more skilled, or what did he say?
And he said he's the most talented player I ever saw. Gretzky wrote, I think it was an autobiography, like early 90s, I think Gretzky wrote. And he actually wrote something, was quoted as saying that on pure talent alone, Mario Lemieux could win a scoring title playing with a broken toothpick as opposed to a hockey stick, which sounds like a wonderful compliment. He was actually kind of ripping him and calling him lazy too. I mean, I think it came across both ways, whereas Gretzky always liked being perceived as the good Canadian hardworking boy. Yeah, which he was. He was all those things. No question. He was a lot like Sid in a lot of ways. In terms of how he played the game and the constant effort. So, like I always say, though, it's your own interpretation. If you think Gretzky is the greatest of all time, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think Bobby Orr certainly has an argument that can be made. I think those are the only three. I think anybody who says McDavid or Sid
you're lying to yourself.
I'm not denying the greatness of those guys. They're obviously top 5, top 10 players ever, wherever you want to put them. But to me, the Holy Trilogy, like those three guys, they're to this day still in a different league, in my opinion. But when I think of just pure talent and greatness and overcoming obstacles, like I always say, if you're ever in a fight in a bar in Canada about who the best player is and your team 66, I want you to look at this person in the bar. And I want you to say, hey, if Gretzky had taken 3 years off and came back to the league at age 35, would he have been the best player in the league? Would he have put up 76 points in 43 games in the middle of the dead puck era?
No.
And listen, Gretzky never got cancer. Good. I mean, that's not his fault. Mario got cancer at 27. Okay. Like, was anybody in the history of the sport going to put up 30 goals in their next 20 games after having cancer treatments?
To win the scoring title?
I mean, that may have been the greatest hockey he ever played during that stretch. It probably was. It's like 56 points in 20 games. And there's an even better stat. He was a little rusty the first 3 or 4 games. Then he really went crazy. Like, nobody would have done that. No. Nobody could, because the game's never been played at that level. So it's all, it's up to the individual person. I don't like to give people a hard time when they're wrong, but I do give people a hard time when they say it's not a debate or it's not an argument, because I don't agree with that at all.
Not even close. And I'll pull this stat up before we get to a quick break, but in 95, 96, this is probably 2 years or a year into the birth of the dead puck era, where it was officially the dead puck era.
Mario's last truly great season, I would say.
Yeah. So 95, 96, Mario plays in 70 games. Mind you, all his health problems, back issues. That's why he only played 70 games.
He didn't play the second game of back-to-backs very much that year. To kind of brace himself,
And he scored 69 goals and 92 assists in 161 games in the peak clutch and grab garage league, which, comparison, Wayne at that point had 102 points that year, and that was the last time he ever eclipsed 100.
That was the year Gretzky was traded to St. Louis, I think.
Yep.
That year. Hey, you just went dark, Corey. I'm glad you're back.
I know. Somebody's flicking a light switch in your room.
And by the way, I know there's somebody out there right now saying, well, Mario played with Jágr. No, he didn't. They were on the power play together that season. But the Penguins' second line that season was Francis, Nedved, and Jágr.
Unbelievable line.
Pretty decent second line. Mario played with Tomas Sandstrom. And for the first half, there was a young Marcus Naslund, who wasn't really Marcus Naslund yet.
Yeah.
The Penguins made a terrible trade during that season, traded him for Alex Stoyanov. So it was just kind of revolving left wingers and Tomas Sandstrom, who was a good player, not a great player, and Mario. So he didn't need Jágr's help. He was just, still he was age 30. And by the way, he was 30 years old that season. 161 points in 70 games. That's 2.2 points a game.
Yeah.
30 years old. And he'd taken the season before off. So he hadn't even played in a year and a half. And he just shows up. And, Mike Lang always used to say, if Mario's reasonably healthy, kind of a ho-hum game for him is like a goal and 2 assists. When he was healthy, that was just an average game. And it was like that. Yep. He just wasn't healthy very often.
Yeah. It's the ultimate what if. And I agree with you. If you can say whoever you want, as long as it's one of those three. I'll argue with you if you think it's anybody but
and it's
Gretzky or Lemieux, And
it's I always the people who say even who's a shitty NFL team right now, the Browns. Mm-hmm. There are people the Browns would beat the 75 Steelers right now because there's 50 years of evolution. No shit.
Yeah,
it's not really the point. I prefer to gauge people against their own peers. That's. I think Babe Ruth's probably the greatest baseball player of all time. Look how much better he was than anyone else he played against. That tells you something.
Yes.
When you fast forward 50 years, everyone has the nutritional advantages and the doctors and you name it. You can only gauge people against their own peers, in my opinion, or at least to some extent. So taking nothing away from Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, obviously they're all-time great players, but crank up the YouTube and just watch. Watch for yourself and educate yourself. You'll see.
Yeah. And to that point, the fact that Mario could still, you'd be, like we said, put into any scenario and still be the best player in the world.
Put him in the 40s, put him in the 70s, modern. It wouldn't matter when you're dealing with a man that big and that talented. He probably came along at the worst era, really, for him. Nobody in the 90s was really scoring, especially into the mid 90s. It was It was a time where the NHL was dedicating itself to 2-1 hockey games.
Yes,
It didn't matter.
I remember. Do you remember? I don't know if you were covering full time whenever Sid came into the league, but I remember the goal. I forget where this was stated, but they wanted to average 5 goals a game.
Yeah.
The NHL, like that was their goal coming out of the lockout, was like, we want to get at least 5 goals every game. And it's like, isn't that insane to think about? That's how bad it was, is that they looked at a score and saw 3-2. They're like, oh, thank God something happened tonight.
If you're really bored, anyone out there, if you're bored, go to like hockeyreference.com or whatever. You can go to all the old box scores, which is a great way to kill time if you're on a plane or something. God knows I've done it. Look at Crosby's rookie season, the 2005-06 season. If I'm not mistaken, in his first 3 games, which were at New Jersey, then at Carolina they lost, and came home for Boston, I think they had 30 power plays in the first 3 games.
Yes. It was
That's
insane.
because the league cracked down so much because they just wanted more goals to be scored. And they knew they could get it with power plays, or people would just stop hooking each other and it would open up more even strength scoring, which eventually is what happened. It was actually hard to watch games that year. There's so many penalties. Like they were going over the top, but they kind of had to because of what they had let happen the previous 15 years.
Yep. Yeah,
the game in the mid-90s, how Lemieux and Yager never won a cup in the mid-90s? Well, it wasn't exactly geared toward them. Yeah, Sakic and Forsberg did. They had Patrick Waugh. That's why they did that. You had to have the Hall of Fame goalie. Penguins had Barrasso, but he frankly wasn't in Patrick Waugh's league.
And he wasn't the old Barrasso anymore.
No, and he was toward the end of his career at that point anyway. And the Penguins weren't a good defensive team. They had a lot of other issues, but
put Patrick Waugh on that 96 team. I bet you they beat Florida.
I would say so. It was just hard to score goals back then. And the fact that they did as often as they did is pretty telling.
Yeah, it's pretty telling. Well, that the birthday boy, Mr. Neofis, is definitely going to enjoy that Lemieux talk, because I know, I think you could sit down with Bill Neofis and he'd sell you probably every insurance you could possibly get under the sun and talk about Lemieux the whole time simultaneously. That's how great he is.
Yeah, if ever there's been a fellow 66 supporter, our OG sponsor, Bill Neofis certainly is that. He, of course, is the man who heads up the Neofis Insurance Group. Happy birthday, Bill. He's been with us since day one, and just an unbelievable human being. He's the best insurance man in town. Here's how good of an insurance man Bill is. Like, I'm talking with Bill the other day, and he's like, when we're in Vegas, the Steelers play. I'm like, yeah, that's right, because the Penguins play in Vegas in October, and Bill always makes that trip. So the man has rented a lagoon and a swimming pool with televisions just to watch the Steelers poolside in Vegas. I'm like, you're not just a great insurance man, you're a great friend. And he really is, and he's a great friend to all of Pittsburgh. He works with Nationwide very closely. Got his number for you right here. Give Bill a call. Any kind of insurance. Like, I don't think they have any rules into like what they don't consider insurance. Like they will insure anything where insurance exists. It's 412-364-3388. I'll give it to you one more time. 412-364-3388. Neofis Insurance Group. Life insurance, homeowners insurance, renters insurance, pet insurance, car insurance. Like, you go down the list. Our man Bill is going to help you out. Really friendly staff. They love hockey. They love the Penguins. And they love when they hear that we sent you. So tell them you were listening and that you decided to consult Bill for some help. He will be more than happy to help you.
Thank you, Bill, as always. And I might I'd be like that creepy person that just shows up at the party that wasn't invited, and all of a sudden will see me in Vegas, like floating over in a raft in the pool, and be like, "Oh, Corey, by the way, Bill, Corey's here."
Yeah, hi Corey. Like, have a drink. Yes.
Yeah, totally by accident. What are the odds that I happen to be here at the same time? But like that old character. It was like that was a trope in like the 80s and early 90s, like kind of the Cousin Eddie. Like walk in, start eating something off of everybody, like all the.
It works out nicely too, because the Penguins play Friday in Denver, then Saturday in Vegas. What does that mean? That means no practice on Sunday. That means guys like me can just go to the pool and watch football. So
means Josh is off.
Don't have to be in Salt Lake until the next day. So it actually works out very nicely. Yes.
Well, and as people probably don't realize like the Pens and a lot of the NHL players enjoy watching college football, but especially the NFL. Canadians love the NFL.
Oh yeah, more
They
and
don't.
more. Yeah,
They don't really get into the college football as much, but they love the NFL. And I know Sid's like a huge NFL guy.
Sid and Gino love the Steelers. Like they do. Like they are. Gino's always with his son Nikita
and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Oh, we had a connection problem. There you are. Yeah. I mean,
yep, we're good now.
Yeah, I mean, Gino's always at Steelers games with his son Nikita, and sometimes like you'll see Sid on a Monday, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" I'll be like, didn't like that call and that pass interference. That was bullshit. I'm like, see, you're one of us now. This is great. Yeah, he's becoming. You think about it, like those two guys, like they've spent more than half of their lives in Pittsburgh now. Like they really have. So like, we only have so much to do on a Sunday afternoon in November. So guess what? You're going to start watching the Steelers just like everyone else. But no, and there's going to be new fantasy football teams this year too, because usually the Penguins, like there's two guys they share a team. It's like the whole team is in a 12-man league or whatever. Ryan Shea was Sid's longtime fantasy football partner, so he's going to need some. He's going to need some help. I think they would have occasional disagreements. I think like for the last 3 years they had the same fantasy football team. So that's absolutely one of the first questions I ask when camp starts in September. Like I like
matched with who?
Yes, who's your quarterback? Do you have any depth issues? Like who's making bullshit trades? I want to hear it all.
Yeah. That could be a podcast in its own.
I would think so. What I want to know is how much money do they play for, but they don't ever tell you that part. They don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So I often wonder.
I'm sure they do. They just do it for Brewster's gift cards or something. Something like that. It's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes.
So the Penguins announced their Hall of Fame class for 2026, and I'll just read the names first, and we'll go through them, one by one. But Marc-Andre Fleury, Larry Murphy, Jim Rutherford, and Jack McGregor, who was the founder of the Penguins.
Yeah.
So Josh, you're involved with this voting process and the discussion. What was the discussion about Marc-Andre Fleury? Was it like, yeah, he's in?
It wasn't really a discussion. It was something like, okay, yeah, Flower wants to go in this year, great. He's available, great. Some of it is just, they are human beings. Sometimes they have commitments. You have to make sure this weekend, they're going to go into one of these years, right? Mm-hmm. But no, Flower, I mean, that was a no-brainer. It was completely unanimous. And I don't know this. I'm not on the, number retirement committee because I don't think there is one. Mm-hmm. But I'm quite certain in the next year or two they're going to retire his number. It won't be this year. But I wouldn't be shocked if that happens as early as next season. Is he second most wins? I think he finished second most
wins in NHL history.
Okay, he won 3 cups. He didn't play all of those cup games, but he won one on his own, and they don't win it in 17 without him. So call it 1.5 if you want. Fine.
And you have to think about it this way: in the 2015-16 season. I know Matt Murray was unbelievable in the playoffs, but Matt Murray was a rookie. And what happens if Fleury's not there to play the 60 games he usually played every year? Could Matt Murray have been that good through the playoffs, having to be the guy the whole year?
And that was one thing we learned about Murray is he can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that he physically couldn't do it. And a lot of goalies can't. That's true. That's one thing about Fleury that goes overlooked. He played 60, 65 games a year like it was nothing and almost never got hurt. He's one of the greatest goalies of all time. And I would suggest, for the sake of the Penguins Hall of Fame and raising his number or whatever, I mean, to me it's obvious, but he's also, I would say, top 5 most beloved player in Pittsburgh history. Just among fans. I mean, to this day, when you hear his name in that building, the place erupts.
Yeah,
he is an all-time beloved Penguin and an all-time beloved teammate. You will not find a teammate more beloved. I don't even know if Sidney Crosby is. Maybe they're on the same plane, I guess. But Fleury, and I can tell you, listen, he left in summer of 2017. That locker room has never been the same.
No,
and it's not that anybody has done anything wrong in that locker room. It's just you can't replace that personality that he was. I hate the expression one of one because it's so overused, but he was like there's never been anyone quite like him. Just an unbelievably magnetic personality, always the smile on his face. It was always sincere. They should retire his number, and I have zero doubt. I mean, it's not a fact, but it's going to happen in the next couple of years, and it should. He's one of the best goalies in hockey history, and this has nothing to do with Pittsburgh and what he did here. But if you're looking at his legacy, you also can't ignore the fact that he took a freaking expansion team to the Stanley Cup final. That's pretty. I mean, when people look at his career someday, that might be what they remember more than anything else, just in terms of pure goaltending brilliance. But he should have his number retired. He will in due time. And yeah, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame class. And we saw it in the preseason game last year, Corey. When he shows up in Pittsburgh, it's a big deal.
Man.
And it's going to be a big deal. I think it's November 14th. It's going to be a big deal when he shows up.
I mean, I know, the women in my lives, like, sisters and my wife, like, everybody got like emotional whenever he left in 2017. Like that sucked, and like everybody everybody was like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously you go with the rookie goaltender that just won 2 Stanley Cups. Like, you obviously do that. And there's an expansion draft. Like there's nothing you could do, but like, there wasn't a soul in Pittsburgh that was happy about it. And there is a little bit of revisionist history that goes along. Like, there were times people wanted to run Fleury out of town, like we know what being a goaltender or a quarterback in Pittsburgh means. It means that you're the one that either gets all the glory or you get run out of town. And but even whenever
I think he has become even more beloved, after he's been gone, kind of like Elvis, like the legend even grew more, whereas he had his detractors. And Fleury wasn't perfect. Like, Fleury had some meltdowns in some big games. That is part of his legacy, one way or the other. But the way he was able to overcome that and be as great as he was in 16 and 17, and I will never forget. When I think of him in game, I know everyone's going to think of Game 7 in Detroit, and I get that. But he was also young and unblemished at that point. What he did 8 years later, Game 7 in Washington in 2017, that's the game I always remember. Because let me tell you something, the Penguins were dead in the water. They were out of gas. The Capitals were better than them. They were better than them that season in that series. They were. Sorry, they were. And he just wouldn't let them lose in Game 7. I will never forget that performance.
Yeah, that's when you look back on the Stanley Cup, every year, you can almost point to a different series and be like, that's when the Stanley Cup was won. Like, 92 against the Rangers. It's like, well, that's kind of when the Stanley Cup was won. Like, the Rangers were the President's Trophy winners that year, right?
And the Penguins came back and won Game 4 in overtime.
Yeah, like that, so it's like you obviously still have to win the cup, and believe me, we've seen it whenever the Penguins lose to the Islanders in 93, but that 2017 Game 7, like that series, everybody kind of felt it. It was like once they beat the Capitals, you were like, I looked at the Predators and the Senators as potential traps, like the Islanders in 93.
And they were.
Like just don't lose these series. Like, you should win them.
And Ottawa took them right to the brink. I mean, double overtime. Because, again, the Penguins were out of gas. If the Penguins had any energy at all, they would have beat Ottawa in 5. But when you're out of gas, things like that happen. But, yeah, when they beat the Capitals, you kind of felt like these are the 2 best teams in hockey right now. And Fleury was the best man on the ice in Game 7. He made the I don't know what else to call it. I call it the jerk-off save on Ovechkin.
I was going to bring that up.
He had the very famous celebration after making that save. It's only he can. But
for those of you that don't know, he would always rub the post that made the save for him, and the long end of his stick knob made the save for him on Ovechkin, and he did the same thing.
More on the 49ers later. Let's not get too far.
So let's not get too far down that.
No, I mean, he was, when you consider the character that he is, the good person that he is. And I always say about Flower, like, not only, I don't know where you rank him all-time goalies, top 10, top 20. I don't know. He's a Hall of Fame goalie, wherever you rank him. But he was one of the rare goalies who was an entertainer in the net.
Mm-hmm.
Like, goalies today are like, Vasilevsky's great. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, is there anything like exciting about him really? Whereas like Fleury, he just had this theatrical sense about him. Even when he would leave the net and play the puck, the whole building would hold its breath.
Yeah.
And he would just make from the save he made in Detroit, just throwing his body at the puck. Like he was a rare goalie who you'd pay money to watch. You don't see that much when he would, put his hand and pet the post when it would make a save for him. So nobody else does that anymore. He was such a throwback in that way.
Yeah, and I'll always remember for him. I was at his first game against the Kings, and me and my buddy Matt were sitting there watching the game, and we got student rush tickets, which frequently put you behind the net where the Penguins were only shooting once. But this was the one time that you wanted to be behind the net where they were defending twice. And me and him, I remember we were marveling at like his up down with his legs, how quick he could go up and down from his knees back up to butterfly stance, and his side to side movement. Unbelievable. And I remember just kind of that, us talking about that, and then it coming to fruition 5 years later, whenever he, it was because people always forget on 2009, he made the save on Lidstrom, but the puck went back to Rafalski. Rafalski shoots it, and Fleury goes down for the save. It gets blocked in that little, like the scrum from the faceoff circle. Fleury's knees come back up, and that puck lands on Henrik Zetterberg's freaking stick.
Oh,
and he shoots it.
That was the save that nobody talks about. That save, yes.
And he gets back down quick enough and makes that save on the guy who won the Conn Smythe the year before. And then obviously the rebound pops out and he makes the save on Lidstrom. But that right there was like, if you watch that replay right now, you can watch that and see that puck on Zetterberg's stick and know that he's shooting it low on the ice. And 9 out of 10 times that's a goal.
Remarkable how well the Red Wings executed when they had like 6 seconds or whatever it was.
Yeah,
to get like 3 good looks like that. They were so good. They were so good. I got distracted by that. Sad news. Where I guess we're not. I think this is actually going to hit at 9:30 tonight. So when you watch this 9:30, I just saw Dolly Parton just passed away.
Oh,
my phone just blew up.
Dolly Parton.
But she'd been sick. I don't know if she'd been sick.
I didn't know anything about her being sick.
80 years old. Very sad. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope she still keeps sending. My mom always sends my kids up for like her book club or whatever. And
oh, really?
they just like randomly get like free books from Dolly Parton.
Very sad.
That's very sad. But the other members of the Hall of Fame, Larry Murphy. So for those of you that do not know, I mean, Larry Murphy was. I'll just say this. I mean, I was a shitty club hockey defenseman. So I'm not trying to brag about my hockey career, but I played defense. And there's very few people. If you could skate like Paul Coffey, which nobody could, but if you could skate well, you wanted to be like him. If you could, shoot like Al McInnes, you wanted to be like him, or hit like Scott Stevens. I loved Larry Murphy's ability to make a pass, his ability to get the puck out of the zone, his vision, and to me, the one that sums it up the best is Lemieux's goal, the second goal in Game 6 of their first Cup win against the North Stars. I think it was they were shorthanded, down 4-on-3. Lemieux was on the penalty. Lemieux's on the penalty kill, and the puck goes into the far side, and Murphy just takes a look over his shoulder.
Bank pass.
That's why that's literally where I learned it. I learned from him. He would always take a glance, like a mental picture where everything was going. Turns around, whips the puck through his zone, which is a big no-no, and bounces a perfect pass right off the boards to Mario and spring him for a breakaway.
Yeah, when I think of him, I think of that pass immediately. Here's how good Larry Murphy was. In February of 92, the Penguins said, Larry's so good, we actually can trade Paul Coffey because Larry's better defensively, and he doesn't skate like Paul Coffey, but he'll put up like 90 or 100 points a year from the blue line. So he can just run the power play, and we'll get Shel Samuelson and Rick Tocchet and get tougher and get the size that we need. We'll still have Murphy. We'll be fine. Like, it's just unbelievable hockey player. One of the smartest players ever. Yep. Like, he didn't wow you away with his physical skills necessarily, but you're right. He could pass the puck. He was probably top 3 ever at keeping the puck in at the blue line.
Oh, God.
He had this amazing way. Like, you could not clear the puck past the man. And was it the Murphy dump? Is that the
good old Murphy dump?
Yeah, he would do stuff like that. He was you know, when you think of the Penguins of the 90s, he's not the first name that pops in your mind. But it's scary. Oh, yeah, Lemieux and Yager and Stevens and Francis and Recchi and Tocchet and Mullen and Trottier and Francis, if I didn't say about all these guys. Oh, yeah, Larry Murphy. He's in the Hall of Fame. And, like, for good reason, because he was a big dude and he could just do everything. Just a great, great hockey player.
An all-time great. So if you'd have to have seen it to appreciate it, because he's one of the greatest ever. Also, we had Jim Rutherford going in, which Jim Rutherford, you know, I think it was an absurd number of trades. I think it was over 50 trades he made in the years that he was with the Penguins.
He was like over 50, and I think it was 50 in his first 50 months, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God! Yeah. So he, you know, was a wheeler and dealer, and we could go on and on about him building the Cup teams, and I mentioned it before in this podcast. One of the things I love about general managers, in 2016 in San Jose on the Canadian broadcast, they were interviewing him after on the ice and said, they said, you know, oh, Jim, you know, like you put this team together. And one of the first things he said was, he was like, well, I want to thank, you know, Ray Shero and Craig Patrick, who came before me, you know, because, you know, like GMs, we lay a lot of the groundwork and aren't always there to see it through. And so obviously an all-time great, but Josh, he was also an all-time great quote for you, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's long ago been in the Josh Hoey Hall of Fame of quotes. Listen, you know, I've covered the Penguins for 17 years. He's on the short list of my favorite people. Really good human being. He really is. He has a grandpa-like way about him. Everybody in the organization loved him. I remember, maybe 17, I think it was. He signed a new contract extension. I just showed up, I think it was July 1st. As free agency day. I'd just gotten to Cranberry. And a couple of Penguins employees I'm friends with just ran up to me and hugged me. I'm like, hey, guys, good to see you. Why the hell are you hugging me? Like, look at your phone. I looked, and the Penguins had just sent out the tweet that Jim had signed a new deal. I'm like, oh, this is great, because everybody just liked having him around. I remember his first year in Pittsburgh. I said to him, I said, Jim, I got to be honest with you. Like, everything's great, but, you know, when you were in Raleigh, like, you guys had that great ice cream in the press room. We don't have any ice cream here. We need some ice cream. I was 100% joking with him. I swear to God. A week later, there's ice cream in the press lounge. Like He would just make things like this happen. Like he was a people pleaser. He wanted to take care of people. And people tend to forget. From 2000 or 2010, through 2014, the Penguins probably had the best rosters in hockey. They didn't win a damn thing.
Yeah.
And they had problems, and there were people starting to whisper like we're Sid and Gino kind of one-hit wonders. And Jim made his mistakes at first. Johnston Mike, the one that comes to mind most prominently. He made some other mistakes, but then all of a sudden he went on the greatest heater that we've ever seen a Pittsburgh GM go on. For about 18 months, it was remarkable what he did. Move after move after move. Jim was a home run hitter. Yeah, he'd strike out some. That's what home run hitters do. When he was at his best, there was not a better general manager. There really wasn't. And one of my favorite people. There was a real family atmosphere when he was around. Like, it was, for those of us who were on the team daily, it's quite evident. And he played a very big role in that. He's one of the great GMs ever. And I'm looking forward to it. And he and Marc-Andre Fleury are so close because he told Fleury, like, everybody saw how good Murray was immediately in the 15-16 season. And then 16-17 season after he'd won a cup. He said to Fleury, I'll trade you now if you want. Like, I understand you want to be the guy. I do. I will trade you. This isn't really fair to you to have both of you guys here. And Fleury said to him, nah, absolutely not. We're going to win a cup again this year. And then you can make sure I get to Vegas next summer. That's fine. And the game I talked about when Fleury shut out the Capitals in Game 7, all of my years, I covered Jim Rutherford 7 years. The only time I ever saw him in the locker room, let alone after a game, the only time I ever saw him in the locker room was after Game 7 against Washington, when the media is all in there doing our interviews. He barges in through all of us, and he puts Fleury in a big bear hug. I'll never forget it. And that was his way of saying, thank you for staying. We wouldn't have won without you.
Yep.
And I'll never forget that. That was those two are very close, and I'm glad they're going in together.
Yeah, and I often wonder with how close they were, because I know wasn't it really close to happening that Fleury almost came back and Rutherford was about to get him back from Vegas,
Tried.
and I wonder if I forget the scenario, so you could clarify, but I wonder if he comes back then, if we maybe don't get the Ron Hextall experiment.
Maybe it was right around COVID time. I forget the exact time that it was, but Jim certainly made the effort, and there was some talk at the time, and I don't know how true this is. I don't think Vegas wanted to trade him back to Pittsburgh. I think they kind of enjoyed that part of his legacy was with the Golden Knights and didn't necessarily want him back in Pittsburgh. I don't think Mark would have had a problem with it. I don't think Fleury had any issues with Sullivan. It was a dicey time, with the Murray and Fleury thing. There was certainly the sense that Sullivan couldn't wait to get Murray back in the lineup in the 2017 playoffs. I think that was probably true. I think he trusted Murray more. But no, Jim tried. He absolutely tried in his last few months, actually, before he resigned as GM of the Penguins. So that would have been something. The sports writer in me would have appreciated that. And gee, what if the Penguins had Marc-Andre Fleury in 2022? And we're playing the what if game, or in 2021 when they lost to the Islanders. That was the Jarry implosion, and then we had the Louis Domingue implosion the next year. Boy, they win those two series with Fleury. I know that much. I don't know how far they go, but that would have been one last gasp for that great team. He would have made a real difference because he was still great even at that point, certainly.
It was unbelievable how his career continued to go on. So, yeah, I wondered about that. And then lastly, Jack McGregor, who passed away on January 6th of this year, but he was the founder that he was a politician who basically, orchestrated the original ownership group to found the Penguins. And it's in the Penguins documentary, the great 50-year documentary they put out, the
So
Penguins
good.
team put together.
Yes.
I've watched it so many times because it's just so well done.
Yeah, Jack McGregor, the original founder, he passed away not too long ago. What a nice man. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. The rare politician who's just a genuinely nice person. I mean, just the kindest guy. He really believed that Pittsburgh was a big-time town and deserved to have an NHL team, and he fought hard for it. And even years after he was no longer the owner, he was still going to games, was still just a fan of the franchise. And I know he and Mario developed a really good relationship in later years. I think it's in that documentary where you see he's at a game and Mario's in his box visiting him, or maybe he's in Mario's box, whatever. Everybody liked Jack McGregor. I've never heard a bad word about him, and the Penguins obviously don't exist without him. So very nice honor. I'm glad that he's going in.
Yeah, absolutely well deserved. Real quick, we'll come back and just touch on a little bit of Steelers stuff because camp has wrapped up and we're barreling towards the NFL season. But out of Danny's Pizza and Hoagies certainly is probably itching for hockey talk. So if you're in the area, please go and get yourself a hoagie and some pizza, and then you can talk hockey with Alex.
Yeah, if you're going to go to Danny's, listen, let's give our friend Alex some business. You will not be disappointed. They are by far the best hoagies in town. The pizza's unbelievable. You name it. You will be taken care of. It's really reasonably priced, too. But don't be afraid to ask for Alex and say something along the lines of, what's up with the power play? Or why do the Penguins have 18 forwards right now? Or who's going to play on the left side of the blue line? Alex is an unbelievable hockey fan. He loves the Penguins. And he's been a great sponsor to us for quite some time. Pittsburgh's a good hoagie town. There's a lot of hoagies all over the place. I'm telling you, and I'm not telling you. You could give me a lie detector test. I'm telling you the truth. The best hoagies in town are at Danny's by, in my opinion, a pretty wide margin. The Italian hoagie, if you haven't had it at Danny's, it will change your life. They do this thing, Corey. I know you've had it. They melt the cheese on the bread in a certain kind of way that I kind of binge on it. I'm not going to lie. I do.
Oh, yeah.
Their ingredients are just better and fresher than anywhere else. That's half the battle. I don't know that much about the food and cooking industry, but if you got good ingredients, you're off to a good start. And I told him last time I was there a couple weeks ago, I said, even the lettuce is fresh. Like I don't usually comment on lettuce. It's just lettuce. Your lettuce tastes better than anywhere else. They got the best ingredients. It's fresh. You will not be disappointed. I got the address here for you. For those who don't know, it's 5159 Library Road. We call that Route 88. It's Route 88 in Bethel Park, very close to the South Park, Bethel Park border, right on the main drag, as we like to say. You will not be disappointed. They're off on Mondays, but the man's got to rest on Mondays, but the rest of the week, make sure you get there. The pizza, the hoagies, you will not be disappointed. I'll give you the phone number if you want to call for an order too. It's 412-833-7788. 412-833-7788. Get yourself a takeout order, whatever you want. Go to Danny's. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely. As a hoagie aficionado myself, it is the best. So
there's a reason they've been in business since 1960. 1960, right? There's a reason. Like, that's not coincidental. Like, shitty sandwich places don't stay in business for 66 years. It's just the cream of the crop. It really is.
So walk in and, get yourself a Danny's. Maybe watch a Steelers game. We've got the last preseason game coming up this Thursday in Buffalo. But the big thing is the Joey Porter Jr. Situation. Early on, it was, he was on the PUP list, but we all knew that it was contract. It was a contract situation.
Mike McCarthy made that very clear.
Yeah. Now it's become very clear that it is purely a contract situation. McCarthy coming out and saying it. And then you have Jalen Ramsey, I think, said it like 3 times. You got to pay Joey. You got to pay Joey. I think normally pre-Le'Veon Bell, my Steelers fandom, I would have just been like, yeah, like they'll get it figured out. But now post Le'Veon Bell, I remember what that was like, because I remember we were all sitting there going like, well, there's no way he would sit out the whole season. Like, he just, get out of shape and come back and play for the Jets next year. It's not going to happen. And then it did.
Yeah, and I would still be surprised if that happens. I don't know that Joey does himself any favors if he does that, much like Le'Veon Bell didn't really do himself any favors. I am not always pro player in these situations. I find a lot of sports fans these days, especially younger sports fans, always side with the player no matter what. And I'd like to remind people, you're still running business. You can't just give every player what he wants. So I'm always hesitant to say that. In this case, however, I think you can make a real argument that Porter is the most important player on their defense. Is he the best corner in the league? I don't know about that. He's clearly top 10. He's 26 years old. And here's the thing. You're in a division with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins for the next 5 years. You're in an AFC, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mahomes. Drake May, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. You go down the Bo Nix, Mendoza, maybe he'll be a star too. Who knows? Think about all that quarterback talent I just mentioned. If you don't have good cornerback play, you have no chance.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's great that you signed Keanu Benton. Okay. It's great that you signed Herbig. I guess you're kind of looking ahead a little bit. I like Herbig. He's a really good player. Whatever. Yeah. Fine. You can't just not sign this guy. And
that's the weird thing
going up.
Yeah. That's the weird thing to me, Josh, is that he kept signing all these other people.
Yeah.
And not addressing the elephant in the room, that was Joey's contract.
It felt a little misguided, and I don't have a problem with Omar Khan. He's done some good things. I don't know if I totally trust the Steelers front office not to mangle this right now, though. Like, the fact is they haven't won a playoff game in almost a decade. Okay?
Yeah.
And, Omar's done some good things. He's done some bad things. Like, I guess Art Rooney's calling the shots. Like, I don't feel as comfortable as I did when his dad was calling the shots. That's for sure.
No.
And Porter, listen, he's a really good player. And by all accounts, I'm lucky because I know people who cover the Steelers, so I get the inside word. He's a really good kid. Like, there's no character issues here. His dad's one of my favorite Steelers ever. I'm a big PZ Senior fan, but his dad could be a pain in the ass. Let's Joey, he'd run his mouth. He would, on occasion cause problems. I love Joey.
He would, his coaches loved him, but also wanted him to be quiet.
Be quiet, Joey, as Bill Cowher once said.
Yep.
Like, Joey Jr.'s not like that. Like, he's not going to cause problems. He wants paid. Okay, I get it. I don't know why this couldn't have been done 3 months ago. Yep. I feel like they were being a little cheap. And now you hear all these stories. Oh, well, he might not fit into the defense, or he's made some mental errors, blah, blah. Like, no, it's always really obvious. You don't have to be a media expert. Granted, I'm in the business, so I might see certain signals. It's always really, really obvious when the Steelers are leaking shit to their favorite people in the media just to put it out there. It's exactly it's so obvious. Like, so they're taking little shots at him now, getting people to say, maybe he's not Christian Gonzalez. He might not fit into the scheme quite as well. Bullshit. Like, he's a really good player. He's like a 6'2" corner with long arms who like teams don't even throw at. Like, in any circumstance, you'd want to keep him around long term. But when you're not paying a quarterback anytime soon, and you're in an AFC with like 8 or 9 great quarterbacks,
time to lock
at the end of the world.
I mean, is he TJ Watt when TJ Watt was the best player on the defensive side of the ball, period, in the league? No, but because I remember that whole contract holdout, it's like, yeah, you sign him, but yeah, like you said, and also I know it's practice and shorts, and they don't really, it's not like camp used to be, but I don't like the idea of a cornerback coming into a new scheme for the first time with the rest of his defensive backs in the regular season. Like, I'd love to see him get, a week of practice in, a week and a half of practice in, that could be problematic.
I think it is a new defense. There are new coaches. I assume there's some, communication things that are different, which is to say they might actually be trying to communicate this season.
Hey.
To be a corner and you got Drake London week 1, shut him down. Got AJ Brown week 2. You got Jamar Chase week 3. That sounds like a problem to me. Like, that's not ideal, especially when you look at the Steelers' schedule. Like, it's a lot easier, a lot softer in the first 2 months than it is the second 2 months. He's an incredibly important player. Like, they're good at corner with him. They're really good. When you look at the depth, when they brought in Dean from Tampa, and you got Ramsey, I guess, playing in the slot more, which at this stage he can still do it at a pretty high level.
Yeah,
that should be a real area of strength, the corners, but without Porter, I'm not sure that it is. It strikes me as unnecessary and stubborn. Maybe both sides are being a little bit stubborn. And what's interesting? Like, I don't know. There haven't really been any reports on how much the Steelers are willing to sign him for, or how much Joey wants. I don't know. If Joey wants 33 and the Steelers are willing to pay him 25, then we got a problem.
Yes.
If the number's a little closer than that, for God's sake, meet in the middle. Like, you're not going, you might not be going anywhere this year regardless, but you're sure as hell not without him. And he's a really important player for them. He's young. They don't have that many good young players. Let's be honest. They really don't. You don't want him to get away. And I think they've mangled this whole situation.
Yeah, I almost feel like you want to end it sooner rather than later, because at the risk of, kind of poisoning the locker room a little bit. Like, I hate to say that, but, like, there's a social element to this. These guys are friends. These guys all see how they're getting treated, and they want their friend to get paid what he deserves. And Jalen
Ramsey does like to run his mouth a little bit for somebody who's only been here for a year, but that's Jalen Ramsey. That's what he does.
I think he's going to run his mouth no matter where he goes.
He is. But the fact is, Joey's a well-liked guy in that locker room. That's pretty clear. There's a
legacy
just
taken
there.
Care of it.
Yeah, there's even though his old man could be a little volatile, there's a legacy there in that family. And more to the point, however, he's clearly one of the 10 best cornerbacks in the league. He's 26 years old. Don't let that get away. Not when you have as much cap space as they have.
Yeah.
If you're going to overpay for TJ Watt when everybody could see he was starting to decline, if you're going to pay Cam Hayward whatever he wants when he's 38 years old, which is fine. I'm not even really being critical of that, but you might want to lock up the 26-year-old corner.
Yeah.
It's silly. It makes the Steelers look bad, quite frankly. It's just not a good look at all.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's overdue. I'm hoping that it happens, and I just feel like maybe this is a little bit of PTSD from the Le'Veon Bell situation, where I'm like, God, I hope they sign him, because you never know what's going to happen with Le'Veon. But yeah, well, that'll do it for us here on this week for Two for Talking. We had even more Steelers stuff. We didn't even get into the 49ers owner over in San Francisco.
Damn it! We might just have to bring that up next week, Corey, because I mean, I have been to East Palestine, Ohio, not for those purposes, but I have been there. One of my best friends passed away a few years ago. Was from East Palestine. Oh man, would he have been loving this? We're going to talk about this next week, because that's the story that, God willing, just isn't going to go away.
Hopefully we have body cam footage by then, because it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, we appreciate all of you as always, and we will talk to